Oh man, we have so much to talk about this week, so let's get into our political roundtable. Today we have Spiro Amburn, Senior Vice President at McGuire Woods Consulting. He previously served as Chief of Staff for Republican Georgia House Speakers John Burns and David Wallstedt. Democratic strategist Fred Hicks, the founder and president of the Hicks Evaluation Group, which has worked with hundreds of political campaigns for nearly 20 years. And Donnell Suggs, Editor-in-Chief at The Atlanta Voice. He's written for, among others, The Atlanta Business Chronicle, Atlanta Magazine, and ESPN's The Undefeated, all returning panelists after a hiatus. Man, we got a lot to talk about.
Welcome back, guys. It is good to have you back.
Right. Okay, let's start with the State of the Union. Fred, why didn't Democrats show up? A lot of Democrats decided to not be there.
So I think what we saw happen during the State of the Union is exactly why Moore did not show up. The president was not, we don't believe, was a good faith actor, and he was trying to find a made-for-TV moment to shift the narrative, the national narrative that is not in favor of Republicans. And we saw that when he got around to the immigration issue. And so I think for many Democrats decided just not to show up for that.
Many others were there. Spiro, I want to bring you in now. From a Republican's perspective, did the president accomplish what he needed to in that address to the nation on Tuesday?
I think so. I mean, I think the president took the opportunity, as he often likes to do, to present America as strong and moving in the right direction, and contrast it with the previous administration, where we had high inflation, border issues, and increasing domestic crime and instability. So I think he contrasted it again and pointed to indicators like inflation being down, the price of eggs being down, and so forth. So I think he did his job.
Donnell, bringing things back to Georgia, of course, people here in Georgia looking at that speech. I talked to Zach before this. That conflict in the room is an indication of the state of our union. What were your thoughts?
It was an hour and 48 minutes. And I might be the only American that watched it twice, just to make sure I saw what I saw. And it didn't feel like he was talking directly to Georgians whose average median household income is $75,000 to $80,000, which is $20,000 or $30,000 less than other states. It didn't feel like he was talking to people who are kind of struggling with everyday things. It kind of felt like he was squashing some beefs and propping up what he's done in his second term, and that's fine, and that's what he does. But it didn't feel like, what I'm hearing from readers, didn't feel like he was talking directly to Georgians that needed to hear something from him saying that things are going to be better. Didn't feel like he was going directly to them.
Well, he's going to have to speak to Georgians, especially in this governor's race. He's already put his backing behind Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, but Rick Jackson coming in, really shaking things up.
And, we talk about, we've been on an Olympic hiatus for the last few weeks, a lot of shakeups in that time. And we love the Olympics, of course. But, guys, we've got a lot to unpack right here in Georgia. Let's start with that governor's race. Guys, we want to go down the line here, but Fred, Rick Jackson jumps into the governor's race on the Republican side, the Republican primary. What impact, from your perspective, has he had on this primary?
Well, number one, I think he's changed the TV buy schedule for candidates. So you have to move up and make your buys a little bit earlier, and it's also a lot more expensive. He's talking about putting in, $50 million. And so someone like on the Democratic side, like say a Mike Thurmond, who has less than $1 million in his disclosure report, I mean, it's going to be really hard for him to break through.
We talk about money a lot on the panel here, Spiro, by moving up the buy schedule, as Fred has pointed out. Does that put candidates in a tricky position, how to allocate their resources?
Absolutely. I mean, time is short. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, we're only 2.5 months from the primary, so
and he just got in February. Right,
and he says he's going to spend $50 million. But I chuckle a little bit sometimes when politicians get in and they say they're not a politician and they're an outsider at any level of government. But the folks under the Gold Dome, I assure you, know who Rick Jackson is, both from being an active donor and active on policy issues, but he's telling a story that I think the average person out there who may not know who he is resonating.
Donnell, I want to bring you just exactly to Spiro's point. I mean, this is a guy who says, I grew up in foster care. I'm like you. I'm self-made. And now I have this access, and I want to bring that back to you. What are you hearing on the ground?
He even challenged Keisha Lance Bottoms that he's more Atlanta than her. Growing up in Techwood Homes.
Oh, wow.
And being an Atlanta native.
What did she say to that? I gotta look that up.
I don't remember her tweet back, but his tweet was that he's more Atlanta than her. I grew up in the projects in Atlanta. And it's like, so he's trying to speak to every man. Yes, he's very rich and he's not like you, but this has worked before when a rich person says, I'm just like you. So it's working in a sense where people are asking us, hey, why aren't you guys covering him? I'm like, there's not much to cover yet. He's just buying a lot of ads and he's on your TV screen. So.
Hey, and we're talking about him right now. So
right, and here we are.
An indicator. Well, on that note, we're going to take a pause. We will be right back after this break. Welcome back. Democrats and Republicans still at odds over funding for the Department of Homeland Security, leading to a partial government shutdown. Well, this week, I asked Democratic Congresswoman Nikema Williams how Congress can come to an agreement to end this partial shutdown. How should Democrats and Republicans break this logjam? We know that a lot of this has to deal with funding for the Department of Homeland Security. What do you see as key sticking points holding up to reach a deal here?
I mean, the key sticking point is the Trump administration and his Republican allies. They're determined to continue terrorizing our communities. They don't want to hold ICE accountable. They don't want to hold federal law enforcement accountable. And what we have seen with our own eyes is that communities have been terrorized. We saw American children being taken from their beds in the middle of the night in Chicago. We saw American citizens gunned down in the streets of Minnesota. We saw this with our own eyes. So to say that nothing needs to change is asinine. We need to do something about this, and this is where the American people have spoke loud and clear. They want us to hold the government accountable, and I am here to be the voice of the people, Faith. So right now, this shutdown that is going through can absolutely be avoided. And also, the Department of Homeland Security has billions of dollars that were appropriated in the spring that they could use to keep things funded until this is figured out. But they're choosing not to do so. They choose to fund the parts of the government that they want to fund. So this is squarely at the feet of the Republicans who control the House, the Senate, and the White House.
And you can watch my full interview with Congresswoman Williams streaming right now on 11 Alive Plus. We want to bring panel back in, and we will talk about this shutdown. But let's go back to our conversation on the governor's race, because we know we have a crowded field of candidates on both sides here.
And we spent a lot of time talking about Rick Jackson. He's the newest entrant on the Republican side in this race. A lot of other candidates, though. Spiro, I want to go to you, talk about the rest of the Republican field, and then Fred, bring you in on the Democrat side. But Spiro, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Attorney General Chris Carr, all three prominent Republicans who have been in this race for a long time. What do they need to do now to stand out in this race now that Rick Jackson's, some would argue, shaking it up?
Yeah, I think, Rick Jackson's obviously attacking Burt Jones a lot. He's attacked Brad Raffensperger to some degree. I think it does make the race a little more competitive now when you look at a Chris Carr or Brad Raffensperger. I think Burt Jones was sort of, viewed as the front runner before Jackson getting in. I think he probably holds serve there, but I think it might create an opportunity for a Carr or Raffensperger maybe to tick up a little bit.
Is this a race for a runoff, or is somebody going to pull away and win outright in the primary?
I would be shocked if it does not go to a runoff, and I think that was the case even before Jackson.
And you even have Ken Yasgur, who is running. Some candidates who, he has his following in Savannah that could shake things up. Fred, the Democratic side also very crowded here. What are you watching for? And I could also ask the same question. Do you think this will go to a runoff, or will we see somebody win outright?
Well, I'll start with that one. I definitely think this is going to a runoff. You have four relatively strong candidates: Mayor Bottoms, Jeff Duncan, Michael Thurmond, and Jason Estevez. I think that based on all the polling, Mayor Bottoms looks like she's going to finish in first place as of right now anyway, around 38-40%. So the race is for second. And I'll tell you right now, to me, it seems like Jeff Duncan is surging. The
former Republican.
The former Republican, that's right. So about 2 weeks ago, the Fulton DeKalb Dems held a debate, and that was the first time all the candidates were on stage. And when I talked to elected officials across the metro region, they were all very much impressed with the lieutenant governor, former lieutenant governor. And so I think he's really acquitting himself well, and he's surging into possibly a second place spot there. But that battle for second place can be decided by just a couple of points. And I think about 20% gets you into a runoff. So we'll see.
That's right. And I mean, you see the qualifying obviously coming up next week. Fred, I want to just follow up with you there. For voters looking at Keisha Lance Bottoms, potentially Jeff Duncan in this race, I've heard somebody say, oh, Jeff Duncan is just doing this so he can get into office and then he's just going to turn back into a Republican. Are you hearing any of that?
So I've heard that, and I think I'm on record as saying that I was concerned that he might be a Trojan horse for Democrats. But watching him in that debate and having had conversations with all of the big four candidates at some point in time, I find that he's been quite authentic, and that's resonating with people. And that's not to say that the other candidates are not, but he's the one candidate about whom most Democrats are most curious. Mm-hmm. And so the others kind of known entities to some extent, or unknown. But people are curious about him, and he is really sticking to his points and doing well there.
Some people think that he could also win statewide.
Yeah. Donnell, you talk to voters all the time in your reporting. Are you hearing similar themes as Fred is pointing to?
Piggyback on what Fred said, in the back of the room, sometimes I'm just talking to voters.
Which is a great place to be as a reporter
It
because you
really
really can
is.
hear the unvarnished in there.
Right,
Yeah.
I can get out of the spotlight, get in the back of the room. A lot of folks say, I didn't know his story or I heard pieces of his story. And the more they hear it, the more they say, okay, maybe this is someone I should follow. When before you wouldn't have gone with him because he was a former Republican. They keep on allowing him to tell the story over and over again. They challenge him on being a Republican. He gets to tell the story again about how his heart changed. And I've been in the back of rooms, like I was in Chamblee, where people say, oh, well, that seems realistic to me.
And potentially resonating with other people.
It is.
Yeah, if I
You-
could add
5
just
seconds.
One quick
One
point.
sentence.
You go back to look at other races, whoever sneaks into that runoff on either side, watch out for that person.
That
because
was
they can
a
win.
That's
worthwhile
right.
sentence. I'm glad we
That's
got
right.
that in.
That's right.
We are out of time, guys. Thank you. We will be right back with much more of the Georgia Vote in moments.